So there's another controversial topic that I'd love to share some thoughts about. It's been on my mind for quite a few years, and yeah, I've had energies and insights and thoughts bouncing around, but of course, no, I was at the time quite afraid, I would say, to confront it. I don't know if I was necessarily afraid, but I knew my nervous system couldn't handle, couldn't handle addressing it or receiving the being on the receiving end of like a big internet pylon. So yeah, this topic is something I don't know if it's as common now. I've still seen it here and there. It was very common a few years ago, but it's this concept of acknowledging, like this kind of, woke, if you will, concept of like, I acknowledge my privilege. I acknowledge that I'm a white male from a colonial country, or I acknowledge what are some other, I acknowledge that I am there's like the pretty privilege I mentioned before. I have pretty privilege, I'm not sure. I acknowledge, that I was raised by parents that were very well off financially. I acknowledge, all these things you can acknowledge, and people will often like start off sentences this way. Like you'll say, when people are getting into any sort of like discussion about things, they'll start off by saying, I acknowledge, that I'm here on land that's been, that was stolen from these people, these natives, and for me, it's, there's a few layers to it, and there's the one which is like the intent. There's like what's the intent? What's the purpose of doing this? Like, why was this kind of started and formed? And then the other aspect is like, practically, what is it actually conveying? What is it actually doing? What are the repercussions of it? Because everything we do that's misaligned will have an opposite reaction. Everything we do that is not coming from a place of love and integrity, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a good vibration, so to speak, but if it's not coming from a place of like honesty, integrity, these types of things, then it's going to have a backlash. It's going to have a repercussion. There's going to be reactions to it, whether it's external or internal, and the internal will at some point lead to the external. But yeah, when people start, so the intent of it, I think, is a good one. More people are realizing how much we hold in our subconscious. More people are going to therapy. People are on the Instagram learning, becoming Instagram philosophers and psychologists, and we're realizing how much is in our subconscious. And we want to find answers. There's so much that's wrong with the Western civilization model, and people, there's so many people that have been left out of, that haven't been acknowledged, that haven't been able to be them. People want to be themselves. We're in an age where and there's so much information now, there's so much knowledge bouncing around, and people are learning for the first time in a lot of places. I know for me, it was a revelation for me too, like, wow, I'm allowed to be myself. I'm able to be myself. The pressure of a repressive and judgmental culture is so powerful, and we have such a natural drive to belong to the group that so many of us over generations were picking up on the subtle signals of that, and then doing what it took to fit in one way or another, or repressing ourselves, and we didn't even realize what we were doing. And it's now recently that people are waking up and saying, hey, we can align to something higher, even if it's not reflected in our culture, and we can have this trust in the divine. We can have a trust in the goodness of the universe. And of course, there's also systems that are helping us, like the internet and travel and stuff. If you're like living in a small town before cars, it's probably a lot harder to do that kind of thing than now, where you can move around easily and get information about other places easily and connect to people easily from all over the world, and replicate those connections in other ways. So So the intention, I think, is really good, and because of course, yeah, like when we have harmful things in our subconscious, it can be harmful. If we don't realize, if we, there's this like kind of colonial mentality where it's like, I want that, I have money, I take it. We don't really think about whose it is. It's like, I want to buy that land, I want to buy that car, I want to buy that TV, I want to, I worked for it and I want to buy it. And, you don't really think about the bigger repercussions. And, now the world is, now we get to know about every conflict that's happening right in the moment. We get to be constantly tuned into the news and know how bad the environment is getting in all the parts of the world and all the natural disasters. And we want to, we want to change things. And so, yeah, the intention is good. We don't want to be carrying around this stuff. And, when we come to discussions with people, we want to, we want to create real solutions, and real solutions come from love and they come from care. And so I think that's like the intention of it, is like, I want you to be seen, basically. I want you to be seen, and I want, but there's a dark side of this. The dark side is that it's, you're announcing it, basically. You're saying, okay, I acknowledge that I am white. I acknowledge that I am, Jewish. I acknowledge that I am from America. And what it does is it's like a signal. There's this phrase that I think is really powerful called virtue signaling. Virtue signaling. I am letting you know that I am aware of this thing. I'm putting the stamp on my passport. I'm like, I've got the certificate on the wall. I've got the certificate on the wall that says I'm aware of all these things, and so you can't attack me. You can't attack me. You can't say I'm invalid. You can't say I'm not noticing something, because I am acknowledging it ahead of time. And so because I'm acknowledging it ahead of time, my words are going to take on more meaning and more potency. And so it's basically just another form of manipulation, I guess you could say, because no one that's confident ever needs to announce that they're confident. I always make the analogy, like, you don't argue with someone if the sky is blue. You don't announce it. You don't say, I know that there are many other perspectives, but I believe that the sky is blue. No, you just say the sky is blue. And if someone disagrees with you, if you're a person of confidence, if you really know that the sky is blue, you're not going to worry about people's arguments. But, what the internet did is it created so much anxiety around being right and being challenged. It made it so much easier for the armchair warriors to come out and attack people. And I think people's nervous systems got very fried about it, and people are trying to protect themselves. So it's just a way of protecting ourselves from being attacked. It's also a way of hiding what's really going on, in a sense, because you just put a certificate on the wall that says I'm an expert at this. And so it kind of tries to get to maybe avoid conflict. It tries to present someone as a expert or as an ally or whatever it is, people want connection. People want a lot of these things. People want to help in a way. But what's really going on, and I see so much anger. I see so much rage and vengeance, actually, like, and you can see it if there's a differing opinion. You'll see that come up. A lot of these, I'm not like involved in them personally, so I can't actually speak from a lot of like in-person experience, but what I see online and what I kind of, get a feeling from other people is like, these are very restrictive kind of spaces and groups where this type of thing that type of energy is circulating. And you can't say the wrong thing. You can't have the wrong opinion. And I think this is what, I think a lot of in America, at least, you have so many, anti-woke people and conservative people that are like, that are very happy about things politically, and they're hoping that the wokeness kind of decreases. And, I think they wouldn't be able to, they're not able to maybe articulate the subtleties of what's going on, but I think they're feeling silenced. And, there's a lot of people that are feeling silenced as a result of this political correctness. And there's a lot of people that are feeling like something just isn't right and trying to force others to think a certain way. Like, there's going to be racists, there's going to be people that are ignorant. We're all ignorant in so many ways, and it just puts on so many layers of superficiality and artificiality to try to have the right opinion all the time. Like, when we try to have the right, there's no, you can have, like, there's no perfect opinion, and even if you have the perfect opinion, it's not going to be what's real for each individual person. Everybody has their own level of ignorance and consciousness. And if you try to force someone into another layer of consciousness, you're it's just called spiritual bypassing, and you're going to create a lot of repercussions. If someone's a racist, trying to hide it, or someone's angry and vengeful and trying to hide it behind being helpful and inclusive, like, that just creates so much disharmony and more subtlety. I'd rather know who's a racist and who's vengeful than them the more layers you get of repression, then it just gets more complicated, and the pain just, doesn't ever stop, because this human psyche is so complex and powerful. So I think it's really, I think it's important to notice these things. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I think it's important to be aware of these different types of forces. And, one of the big reasons I think it is that the United States is such a shame-based culture, such a good and a bad-based culture. And, if you don't have certain opinions, if you don't have certain habits and beliefs, like, people were ostracized. Like, you don't go to the right church, or if you don't go to church, you're looked down upon. If you don't, if you have politics a certain way, you're looked down upon. If you, dress a certain way, if there's like so much bullying and there's so much judgment, that have been pervasive for so long. And so I think this shame is so deep, and it just kind of transformed. Like, people didn't get rid of the shame, they kept the shame, and now it's just a new club. It's a new club of, wokeness, or whatever you call it, where people are agreeing to have the certain opinions, and it makes a nice club. But, like, is anything actually really being done? And if you look, to help something, I understand that, I'm doing it right now, I understand that. If you want to help, you have to have care, you have to have love. Angry and vengeful people aren't going to create harmony and, and cohesiveness. We have to, everyone has to work on their own things themselves, and then when that thing is there, just the words themselves will be inclusive. If I'm full of care and I'm inclusive, it should be obvious by the way that I speak and the way that I interact with people. And, people are of all different types of awarenesses, and some people are going to recognize that, and some people aren't. Some people feel like I'm a caring and safe and inclusive person, and some people don't. And, it took me a while to realize that, and to not try to convert everyone to seeing me exactly how I feel that I am. But, I think this is an important part of life, and it's all, talked about in the Indian scriptures a lot, is to be equanimous in both praise and criticism, and, to really be in our center, to really know who we are and trust who we are, and to be steady, basically, to be steady. So I think it's, so there's a lot of shame, and people maybe carry that shame, and they want to feel like they're doing the right thing. They want to feel like they're one of the good crowd. So they acknowledge this and they acknowledge that, and they learn all these things about how many people are wronged and how terrible it all is. And, I think it's important to have education, but also, is the education helping? Is it helping people get rid of their shame? Is it helping people be more caring and inclusive? And I guess it's important, it's important on a physical level too. Maybe resources are being reappropriated, But it's, I mean, if you have non-inclusive people, like inclusiveness comes from the heart, it comes from the inside, and people that are full of shame and judgment, it's not really so inclusive, it's conditional. So I think a lot of times that's what people are feeling, is that the the energy doesn't match the words. And this is a big problem in spiritual communities too, is with all the spiritual bypassing. We learn about certain truths of the universe or have experiences in the past, and it's maybe not our reality, and we just talk about it like it is. Like everything is the divine, and everything I do is divine and is sacred because I'm part of the divine, so I can't do anything wrong, maybe. But yeah, so I think it's important to be aware that there's these shame games, and it's power too. Like someone that plays this game, can maybe have a lot of power and can be seen as a person that's very, respectful, or that's very educated, or that's, that knows the things, that they do the performance, and then they're respected. And so that gets people something as well. And I know a lot of people that have been kind of sucked into these things and trapped for a while, hearing the rhetoric. And a lot of these communities, they're not full of caring people. They're full of angry people, and people that, are feeling pain and want to blame someone. That's another aspect of, because, I understand that, for generations and generations, so many people have been, abused and mistreated, and, patterns, there's been lots of oppression in the Western world and in America. And people are, of course, angry about it. But, not everybody that's part of a oppressed population is I think it also, what it also does is it reinforces a narrative that, while it may be true, it may also not be as bad as we think. I mean, I think the opportunities now are so great for people, and the options are so great for people. And, if we're telling ourselves a narrative of how bad everything is and how oppressed we are for various reasons, then that's our reality. We'll see oppression everywhere. We'll see these patterns everywhere. And are we going to wait forever to be happy until all the oppression is gone, or all the subtle things are gone? I mean, I think that's kind of crazy. And, I don't think we should give away our happiness and our power just because there's something wrong somewhere in the world. There's already enough going on. And, people, the argument, the argument already comes in my head, well, you're in a position of privilege to feel that way. And it might be true, but also, there's a lot of privilege that I haven't had. And I don't think this blame game is valuable at all. Like, being in India really opened my eyes in a lot of ways when I saw people of all types that were content with life, even people that were sad. And it's like, in America, everyone's so discontent and trying to fix everything and making themselves so much more miserable than necessary, and holding on to these stories of things that are just really dark themes. The world is ending and everything is wrong with capitalism and with the patriarchy, and I mean, if you're only looking at that, you're going to find it. But if you're aware, the other possibility is just be aware of it, and also leave possibility for growth. Growth is hard for everybody, but I think there's often so much more space and room than we expect. And if we're expecting to never be criticized, if we're expecting to that everything's going to be easy, and we want change, I don't think it will be. But I think there's so much opportunity that we can miss by really telling ourselves these stories. Yeah, culture can have a strong effect, and it can be hard to overcome these stories as well. And this is where the role of, healthy community comes in, and spiritual practice comes in, just healthy systems. And not everybody, of course, has access, but everybody can, everybody can meditate. Everybody now, so many people have access to the internet and can find, have the opportunity to find spiritual truth and divine music, sacred music, and these kind of things. So yeah, so these are my thoughts on this kind of thing. The main takeaways, just, and the reason why I mention it is just to have caution, because we can miss these things. These things can be really subtle, and if we don't have a strong intuition, or we don't trust ourselves so much, we can really expose ourselves to a lot of darkness and move away from health and happiness and our potential by surrounding ourselves with dark, negative, angry, and vengeful, and just people that aren't caring and loving. So it's easy to be mistaken, and so I hope that my purpose is really to also support people that think, am I crazy? Like, it seems like, all these movements seem like such a good thing. Like, when I resonate with them, I feel bad. My friends are, all the dating sites say, if you don't like this, you're a bad person. If you don't think that way, you're a bad person. And, it can be hard to be alone and, have contrary opinions to these really strong opinioned groups. But yeah, when you get entangled with things like that, then it's not going to help. Those energies can really drag us down by trying to harmonize with a group that has these dark undercurrents. So do kirtan, meditate, go in nature, all of these things, dance and sing, and be very careful. And it's, maybe not everyone has this intention, but I think it's so pervasive. I've felt it very, very strongly. So I'm gonna stick with it. And yeah, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Have you noticed these types of energies and themes coming from those kinds of groups and comments and people and things like that? I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for listening to my subversive society talk of the day, and see you next time. And as always, we'll just take a moment to, there may be a lot of ideas, energies, emotions maybe swirling around. As always, our inner, we always have that space inside. We always have that opportunity to connect inside when we look for it. We don't need, other people can reinforce it and support us, but ultimately it's inside of us. So let's take a breath. Connect to that strong center inside that just knows that we're okay right now, that we're safe in this moment. This moment has everything we need. We can be content in this moment, connected to the divine in this moment. Letting go of any tensions that are there, anything that doesn't serve you, just let it go. It's nothing to subscribe to. It's not a cult or a dogma. The more we connect to our inner intuition, the more we can feel when things are right, when it's in harmony with what we want for our lives, if it's in harmony with love and truth and expansiveness, or if it's in the range of fear and darkness. Thank you so much for being here. Foxy, my divine partner, also thanks you.